Hey everybody, this is Courtney Rowland, Mark Passwaters, and Jamie McCoy here with the AggieYell F-Word Meaning Football podcast. So it's been a little bit since we guys have all gotten together and talked, so a lot has happened since then. Petrino hired, a national championship game. Let's start first with Petrino and A&M hiring him. What's the 411 and what are your thoughts on it? Both Mark and Jamie.
Jamie, go ahead. You're a football player. You know this stuff better than anybody you played against.
Man, see, going back to my time, which ain't too far off, but yeah, that's back in the day, Mark. But I remember him having what is the quarterback's name? Ryan Mallett. I remember them having a pretty salty offense back in the day. Now, this day and age, I think with the hire of Petrino, I don't think for the younger kids coming out of high school, I don't think it was like the big splash hire that, A&M signed Petrino, I want to go play there now. I don't think it was that, but at the same time, for the timing of it and us not being able to get the guys that we initially were going for, I personally think it's okay, just because Petrino has had some good offenses in his Arkansas days. He got to coach Lamar at Louisville. He's seen some good talent, and I think this is probably at A&M. This is probably more talent than he's had as a whole offensive unit. So I think with that being said, and him not having a head coach and just worry about the offense, I don't see a reason why him and Jimbo, with all of their years of experience, can't put a good game plan together and figure out a way to attack these teams down the seams, and not only that, still do well in the run game. I'm hoping we can just. I don't know if he's bringing in a new hire on the offensive line, but I'm hoping we can get the run game situated, especially with the new backs that we have, and like I said, attack those seams a little better with with his history of passing down the field. I think he should be able to mix something up with Jimbo.
Yeah. Mark, what are your thoughts? I agree with Jamie. It probably wasn't like the big time flash hire that the young know about, but hopefully together, two offensive minds can put something together. I'm just wondering though, how much will Jimbo hand over?
He's got to hand it all over. I'm pretty sure that was part of the deal. And here's the deal with Petrino. If you talk about Bobby Petrino, the offensive mind, the coach, you don't hear anything bad about that. It's Bobby Petrino, the person, the way he interacts with people, the way he, obviously screwed around on his wife. That's where you hear bad stuff. As one person put it, I haven't heard anybody call him anything but an a-hole. So, it's like you hear people say, well, he's an SOB, but he's our SOB. That's the situation where A&M is at. But having said all that, you take a look at the numbers that his offenses have put up, like Jamie said, with Mallett and with Lamar, and you're talking about two very different quarterbacks. I mean, Lamar is one of the most elusive, fastest quarterbacks in not only college history, but NFL history. And then you have Ryan Mallett, who I would be faster than Ryan Mallett if my feet were stuck in cement. So they're two extraordinarily different guys, two very different quarterbacks, and he had offenses that excelled with both. That tells you that he can adapt to his personnel, and I think that you guys are right that this is the most talent that he's ever had to start with, and I think that could really help. My big question is, when you have a Type A personality in Petrino and you have a Type A personality in Jimbo, is that going to mean that these guys can be of like mind and aggressively go after what they need to, or are they going to kill one another? Yeah,
my question.
Yeah, I mean, if their personalities can coalesce and they can work towards the goal, which is getting this offense moving, and they don't try to step on each other's toes, then it'll work well. And I think that it's a high risk, high reward proposition. I think the odds are that it will work, but there's also a possibility that this thing blows up in our face. Either way, it's going to be highly entertaining.
Yeah.
So, we just kind of wait and see. But you take a look at the other guys that Jimbo was talking to. and we know that he was after Garrett Riley at TCU, Ryan Groves at Washington. These guys are younger coaches. Petrino's 61. He's got skins on the wall, literally and possibly, figuratively and possibly literally. I really don't know. But in this case, Jimbo may be protecting Jimbo from Jimbo, because if he goes over and tells Petrino in the middle of the third quarter of week 3, give me the play call sheet, Petrino's going to tell him to go to hell. And that's probably not the worst thing that could happen, because we've seen coaches before say, yes, I'm giving up the play calling duties. I will be a good boy. I will go handle other stuff. Gus Malzahn comes to mind. And then 2 weeks later, he's grabbing back the play sheet. They just can't stop doing it. With Petrino, that's his toy. Leave it alone, or he will yell at you. So I think that in that respect, getting an SOB is a positive for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a great point that, it's hard to get out of something that you're so routine used to with Jimbo, and that is calling the plays. So giving it to someone like Petrino, I could definitely see him standing up to Jimbo. And like you said, no.
Hopefully we're not in a situation where Jimbo needs to get the play calling back. Hopefully they're doing so well that Jimbo's got, 2 thumbs up in Aggie fashion, and he's over here talking to the defense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And hopefully the extent of his conversation with the defense is, y'all just keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all give me another 3 and out. We can go down there and put the ball in.
Now, Jamie did mention something about the offensive line. Wondering if they were going to bring in a new offensive line coach, if Petrino is doing that. Mark, what are you hearing on that front?
Well, they haven't made any moves yet, and I think that Jamie can probably tell me whether or not this premise is right or wrong. But I'm thinking that we're in a situation now where they're kind of in limbo, and they won't make any moves until after National Signing Day. For one, if you're bringing people in, you want them to think that they've got stability. That the coaches that have been recruiting them are going to be there. And then you can screw them over once they've signed, and you can happens all the time. I think that's one thing, and I think the other is that the coaches that they could be looking at are going down the stretch with their current programs, and they really don't want to jump ship for another couple of weeks. So that's my theory on that. But I also think that Petrino and Jimbo probably have to sit down and decide what they want to do, what direction they want to go in.
Right.
Certainly I think that guys like Coley and Tommy Robinson have done more than enough to keep their jobs. But I don't know. I mean, is Petrino going to have input on hiring? That's the one big question that nobody's really been able to answer. So, I think we're kind of in a holding pattern for, another 3 weeks or so, and then maybe we'll see what they do. But, this wouldn't be the first time that they've gone through this. So, I think that we're just going to have to be patient for a little bit, and that kind of sucks.
Real quick, I want to talk about the national championship game before we move into recruiting. Kind of a dud. What are your guys' thoughts on the national championship game? Do you think this means they're going to expand the college football playoffs?
Well, they're already in talks. I think, what is it? Not next year, but the year after, going to that 12-team league.
Yeah, they're gonna expand it.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of best of both worlds. You got to see this year in the not only just the playoffs, but in the bowl games, where you can have a Tulane beat a USC. You can have a TCU beat a Michigan, and I think that just goes to show that not all, on paper, sometimes you might say, okay, this team's going to kill this team, but you got to go out there and play the game. But then again, I know this. I know Mark knows this. SEC is a different brand of football, and my big thing with bowl games and what I like about them going to more bowl, the 12-team format is these guys hadn't played since around Thanksgiving if you weren't in the championship game. So you take a month off whether you're a good team or a bad team, you lost a whole, you lose a lot of momentum in those bowl practices. Even though you're practicing every day or whatever, you lose the momentum of the game flow and how you played all season. So you can't expect that same team to step out there in a bowl game. And I knew the way that Georgia just barely got off by the skin of their teeth with Ohio State. I knew Kirby was going to ride them all week and let them know y'all better be out there on your best, playing your best game in this championship, or you're going to mess around and let TCU beat you. And I think TCU went into the week saying, we're in the championship. We did all we could. We're just going to go out there and do what we do. And they got a rude awakening as to what the SEC is all about. I'm hoping Texas and OU get the same thing here in 2 years when they come on in here and see how easy it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Jamie's absolutely right. The SEC proved, not just with Georgia, but you look what Alabama did. They're still a different animal. They're so big, they're so physical. And there is one thing that I think A&M can take away from the national championship game. Don't use a 3-man defensive front against SEC offenses.
Yeah, you're going to get bruised.
Yeah. That was what I knew. TCU ran a 3-3-5, but when they sat there and just stayed in that base 3-3-5 and they didn't really blitz much and they didn't get exotic, I was like, oh, Georgia's just going to kill you. I didn't expect 65-7 kill you. I was thinking more like 34-10. But that the SEC is a league that is still at a different level, and there may be one or two teams out there that can compete. Ohio State being one, but that's about it. And Georgia reinforced that in a painful way on Monday night. I mean, yeah, I think TCU was like, oh, we're just happy to be here. And Georgia's like, we're here to kill you. And that's exactly how it laid out.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mark, early enrollees for 2023, are they there at this point? And is there anyone not there, anyone we're waiting on?
I think that they're all there. The only one that I have any question about is Raymond Cottrell, but he'll be there. There was a little hold up with TJ Shanahan, but he was clearly there. He was at the game last night. So that's 13 guys that they got right off the top. And I was really pleased to see that Jaden Scarlett was one of them. Tell
us a little bit about his history and why he's here now.
Oh, he was part of that 22 class, and there were some questions about whether or not he'd qualify, and then he qualified, but he qualified late, and they didn't, you don't know what to do. And, it's interesting because he's a defensive lineman where you don't quite know what to do. Is he a defensive end? Is he a defensive tackle? Right now, I think he's a big defensive end, which is great because they need big defensive ends. So, you get him. He's been off for a year, but you can get him back into the swing of things, and he can compete this spring. And just a guy that never quit, and seems very appreciative of the opportunity. And that's one of those guys that you want to root for.
You mentioned he was off for a year. I do know that had something to do traumatic with his family. I believe the passing of his father.
Yeah.
Jamie, can you speak on that? Not the passing of a father, but something traumatic happening in football and needing time away, or having had teammates have to do that, and how football maybe kind of centered you back into normal mode.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Again, I hate using the same term, but not best of both worlds, obviously, with something that a father passing. But in some ways, there's so much demand on a college football team, whether it be your academics, weight room, coaches, your nutrition program, whatever it is. There's a lot of stuff that could weigh on you, and if you got something serious as that, you kind of just want to get away. Like I said, there's so many time commitments and things that you have to be at and places you have to be that it's sometimes good to not necessarily check out, but just go away, get some space where you can just decompress and kind of sit in your thoughts and kind of gather, what it is that you really feel and get, kind of compose yourself. But then again, on the other hand, once you got a little bit of that, and you kind of sit and wallow for a little bit, it's good to get back around your teammates and get back into your normal routine of things. It's the, I mean, it depends on which side you look at, but it's kind of good to kind of know that you have a routine that you have to get back to. You got classes that you got to go to, weight room, whatever the case may be. Sometimes those things can kind of shift your focus and kind of give you something to, pass the time actively doing something, and you're not necessarily focused on the sadness that kind of dealing with, life at hand. So I can see both sides of it, needing to get away and spend some time alone, but then again, also having your brothers there to kind of pick you up and know that you're going through something, but help you out in that way.
Definitely. And you mentioned how, you have such a strict time schedule. You have appointments and meetings and classes and etc. How much are these guys who are, high school guys moving into college now, 2023, the early enrollees, and then the guys that are to come this summer? How much is the world about to change? Like, how big of a difference was it from high school to stepping in at Texas A&M?
Oh, it's huge. Just because in high school you're a kid, just doing kid things. You got your sport. You may be playing football, basketball, baseball, just shifting to different things. And then you still got time to go see movies and whatnot. Where when you get to college, you realize, man, this is almost like a job. That was one of my big things, was when you're, especially when you're young and you got to do study hall and figure out your study habits and whatnot. You can find yourself up there at the facility where you only got 2 or 3 hours of free time to yourself at home. And newsflash, it only gets worse in the NFL when you with the time demand that they have up there. Not to bust anybody's bubble, but no, your life absolutely changes so much going to college. But I mean, it's just one of those growing things where it changes, but you realize it's changing for the better. It's teaching you how to be a man and how to commit to time stuff and do the things that be where you're supposed to be and do the things you're supposed to be doing.
You mentioned it's kind of like a job. In comes NIL. Players getting paid now. Mark, at this point, the portal and everything, is it closed for Texas A&M? Where are we at with that?
No, we got a few more days, and then there will be another week to 10 days, I think, at the end of spring ball. So it's not closed, but one thing that people need to realize is that the opportunity to go into the portal will close in a few days. That doesn't mean that they can't still sign transfers. So that process will continue. But the opportunity for guys to go in is getting kind of short, and the numbers are, more guys are starting to go in the last couple of days, because I think that the people that have been a little hesitant about maybe they want to stay, maybe they want to go, are deciding that they need to evaluate their options. So I know that A&M's after a couple of guys, and hopefully they can lock them down in the next, week to 10 days, maybe even before that. But, one thing about that people don't realize about the portal is it's not this magical thing where guys are there and then they disappear. They're still there. It's just a matter of how many guys will, can go in. Graduate transfers can go in at any time. So next week, underclassmen who have not graduated can't go in the portal until spring. But guys who have graduated can go in whenever they want. So the process is never ending and somewhat annoying. And I think that you're starting to see, and Jamie, you can tell me whether or not you think this is accurate. You're starting to see a little bit of backlash, I think. Greg Sankey brought this up at the national championship game, that he thinks that you need to go back to a single signing day in February because there's too much going on. Yeah. And while he didn't say that there was too much, he didn't directly say the portal, but when you say there's too much going on, it means the college football playoff and the portal.
Right.
And, let's face it, college football now for coaches has become more difficult, I think, than being an NFL head coach, because there is no downtime.
Yeah.
This would be the time when coaches would be taking a break. They go on vacation or something. They're not. They're trying to close kids for National Signing Day, and they're working the portal and stuff like that. If there are job changes happening, they're involved with that. It's just tough. And when a coach takes a vacation, it's going to be really short because that's all the time they have.
No.
Yeah. Jamie, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, not necessarily. I feel like Mark hit it all. It is tough. I personally think I'd like to go back to one signing day as well, just because you got half of your guys and you don't know if this guy's going to sign or did somebody flip them. It's like, let's get to the point where on this day, after today, we know where this guy's going and where this guy isn't going.
Right.
I'm all for that. And, like you said, the NIL changes things. So I know that's a whole nother element, but I like to see just a little bit more knowing what you got. Instead, just not so much limbo. Just kind of simplifying things, and we'll see if we can get there.
So to get there, does that mean let's get rid of the NCAA and find some new governing organization? Because right now they have rules, quote unquote, but nobody follows them. And so it's like, why don't we just move to an NFL style, at this point? What are you seeing there, Mark and Jamie? How do you move forward with some sort of control?
Well, I think that my sentiment. We worked together long enough. I'd nuke the NCAA tomorrow. But, that's not necessarily going to happen. There is some positive movement, though, I think, with the change of getting Mark Emmert out of there. The man was an utter incompetent and didn't do anything. Bringing in Charlie Baker, the former governor of Massachusetts, is a real interesting move. And I like it because you're talking about a guy who got things done as a Republican in an overwhelmingly Democratic state. So that means that he knows not necessarily how to move mountains, but at least cut off some of the boulders.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to work for consensus, and he'll probably be more open to making moves, but he's going to find a way to make moves with the assistance of the conferences. And I don't know what Emmert's deal was, if he even had a deal. I think that, he kind of reminded me of Eric Hyman at A&M, where he's just punching a clock. He's just waiting for retirement. He just didn't do anything. And I think Baker has a tough task ahead of him because of that, the way the NCAA has operated the last decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy seems to have a plan, I guess, for lack of a better term, and he knows what he wants to do. And, maybe that'll help. But you got to get some of these people out of here. It's terrible when you know that there are programs that are just out there blatantly violating NIL. Miami. Excuse me. I didn't say that. But they're going after Jim Harbaugh for buying a kid a $3.50 cheeseburger. Come on. That's repulsive. But that's
more recently, that's what they do. They pinpoint one school, find something, and just go hardcore at it just to make a big deal about it. But it doesn't do anything.
It's like, Ohio State has multiple recruiting violations. Missouri, you're banned from postseason play. What? But that's how they've been. So, I think that Baker is the last best hope for the NCAA. And if he's not able to do anything, if they can't put some teeth back into their enforcement and do it the right way, then I think you're absolutely right. They need to get rid of it.
All right. Jamie, what are your thoughts? How have you seen NCAA change from when you were in college to where it's at now?
That's a loaded question. It's all changed. I think these kids these days they don't realize how lucky they are. I say lucky. It's just different times, different age, different era. But I wish I could have been in the days where I just think it's crazy that these guys are getting paid the way that they're getting paid. Not crazy, because I think back in the day we deserved it as well. It's just sad that we missed that run. But no, I think there's definitely going to be some changes. I like what I heard as far as I don't like these guys being able to just leave each year, being able to enter the portal, whatever. I think it needs to go back to. I think it's okay to transfer once or enter the portal one time and no penalty. But if you leave that school that you transferred to, I think you got to sit out a year. I think once you start putting in some stipulations and stuff like that, I think you'll see a lot of these kids start sitting still and saying, you know what? Let me ride this thing out and just try to be somewhat competitive and fight for this job. So we'll see how it goes, but there definitely needs to be some changes.
I've always thought about that. It's a great point that you bring up. You know, guys like you and who were just outside of this whole change and NIL and everything, how you guys feel, because you put in all the effort, you put in all the work, yet you're getting skimped out of all this stuff, and all, you know, the opportunities that the players today are getting. I mean, it's pretty like crazy. I mean, aren't these guys like millionaires at this point, some of them?
Oh yeah, some of them are. It's wild. I mean, to see some of these guys in commercials and whatnot. You know, back in our day, I mean, shoot, I think back Jaworski definitely would have had some. He would have had some type. He would have had his logo on a train or something. Back in some type of locomotive. Martellus, McGee. There were the. It's just wild to see from a guy that played and got to do it. It's wild to see. Yes, like you said, millionaires being made. You think about Ewers, Texas. I think he got $1 million to go up to Ohio State. So it's just nuts. We just need to dial it down.
And you know, I think that this is something that we've kind of discussed before, is there's going to be a breaking point where we're going to go back to that. We're going to have to find an equilibrium, because right now things are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Jamie said, you know, Ewers gets $1 million to go to Ohio State, and he's back in Texas in a year, driving around with driving a Lamborghini with burnt orange interior, and he's not even guaranteed to start next year because here comes Arch Manning.
Yeah,
it's pick crazy. A better color.
Yeah, pick any color. You know, but you know, I think at some point it's not going to be the players that are going to break the system. It's going to be the payers, the people that are signing them to these deals. And they're going to get burned enough that they're just going to be like, no, I'm not going to pay that amount of money. Mm-hmm. And you're going to start seeing, you know, it's just basic supply and demand economics. And, you know, at some point they're going to be like, well, so-and-so, I paid $500,000 to get to go to X school, and he gave me 210 yards rushing last year, and now he's in the portal. I'm not going to lose that kind of money again. So you, sir, are getting $40,000, a bunch of caveats, you know, take it or leave it. And then they'll be like, oh, I'll go somewhere else. And then they'll find, oh, well, this guy's only paying me $30,000, and he's got even more stipulations. Yeah. So, I mean, to quote George W., fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, Cheney. What is it?
Yeah, shame on me.
Yeah, I love George W., but that's still,
man. That brings up a good brings up a good point, Mark. What would you do if we started seeing these payers start having incentive based giving?
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it's already happening. You know, if I were a businessman, you know, and I was paying NIL, I'd sure as hell make sure it was incentivized.
Oh yeah.
You know, I might make them I might have an upfront, you know, signing bonus per se, but I would absolutely have it incentivized, because what's to stop these kids from getting, you know, $150,000 and just, okay, I'm good for a year. I don't know what to do anything.
Yeah.
It's like
morals.
Yeah, it's like
you wish.
It's like Ish Harris kind of alluded to on Twitter. He said, you know, guys are getting this bag, and now they're going where they really want to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's crazy to me.
You know, and I think that would absolutely, if I were a business owner, that would infuriate me. And you've got to find a way to make sure that your interests are protected, as well as making sure that guys that you want to play for your school get what they want to.
Yeah.
Bridges isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah.
What are you going to say, Jamie? Sorry.
Oh, I didn't say. I was just agreeing with Mark.
Yeah. Okay, so Mark, moving forward, are we kind of closing the chapter to 2023 recruiting? Are we moving on to 2024? I know there's some junior days coming up. Where are we at, and what's the future hold?
2023 recruiting is a good question. I don't know of anybody out there right now that they're after, but with Caden Jones committing to Florida, and I think signing, but looking at it, there doesn't seem to be anybody on the radar right now. But we've seen the last couple of years where they've gotten in on some guys very late in the process, like with a week or two to go, and brought them in. So, when we were doing this last, who saw Raymond Cottrell? I didn't. We knew he was out there. We didn't, we thought there was a chance that A&M would make a big run at him, but we didn't know he'd already signed.
Right.
So, stranger things have happened. I just, I just keep on looking. And it's like, I don't know who it would be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens with Petrino and Fisher. If they get a new O-line coach, how that's going to move forward. 2023, is it a close or not? 2024, moving it forward with that. So a lot of stuff still happening. Like you said, it's 365, 24/7 job, which means it is for us as well. Guys, I really, really appreciate it. Mark, for all your insight. Jamie, for your experience and insight. Thank you guys for joining, and you have a great rest of the day.
Awesome. Right. Quick question. Has Anais declared for the draft?
No, and I don't think he's going to.
I love it. He needs to come back. I love that. That's great news to hear. I think it's going to behoove him well.
Yeah, great question. So, so when is there, like, obviously the combine kind of cuts that off, but is there a cutoff date on when you can declare?
Yeah, the 16th. So we're getting pretty close. And he's in a position where, he doesn't really have to say anything because he's, a 4-year senior. But, I think that with the situation with the COVID year, these guys kind of need to announce their intentions, but you've started to see it. That, obviously Layden Robinson's coming back. Ernest Crownover announced that he's coming back yesterday. Chris Russell's coming back. Damani obviously is back. The questions are, the wide receivers, Jalen Preston, who I think would be well suited to come back, and obviously Anais. Right. And, from what I've heard, the NFL returns on Anais were not as positive as they thought, and it all came down to the ankle. They don't trust the ankle, so they're kind of like, prove it. Go back.
Good healthy season.
Yeah.
Which I think will be good for him. Wigman, Anais, Evan Stewart, and Moose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Donovan and another tight end who emerges, who knows, man? Yeah. It could be pretty salty.
Yeah, no, I mean, you look at it, Anais, Evan Stewart, Noah Thomas, Moose, Donovan Green, Jake Johnson, and the new kids, Tease and Cottrell. They still need more. They need more players. They need more depth. But there's talent there, and it all comes back to the start of our conversation. What are you going to do, Petrino? It's all on you.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting. Like I've heard you say before, Jamie, like the talent that A&M has is like driving a Ferrari. Hopefully we don't drive it through a school zone this time.
I know, right?
Pedal to the metal.
Yeah, let's get on that German highway, whatever, Autobahn.
The Autobahn.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much, Jamie. That was a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. And make sure you guys like it, share it, let us know what you think. And tune back in.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us, Courtney.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.